Hello, folks, and happy Halloween. Welcome to another installment of MuleSoft and Salesforce working together to deliver a great Agentforce experience. And we're here to bring you a little bit of a scary topic, which is security. And I want to illustrate that by showing you a demonstration where we purposely break something right off the bat. What we have here is a Salesforce demo organization. We've got it set up to go and retrieve some inventory data using an agent. Now, of course, what's scary about this? This is what we want to have happen, right? Well, the answer is we want to lock this down and only allow certain users and certain agents to be able to do this. And so what we're going to do now is show you this actually breaking, and that's what we want to do. We've locked out my user on purpose. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to request to get this item right here. It's item 1234, and this is a pretty simple API, and it promptly breaks. It says forbidden, and that's exactly what we want on this day or three after Halloween. We want to have this data not accessible. And of course, the scary thing, which could be the horror story of the year, is what happens if your agents are not protected and all this data that's in your backend system accessible by APIs and agents is all turned loose and spilled out in the streets for all the world to see. That would definitely be a disaster of epic proportions and quite scary to say the least. So this is illustrating how we're able to lock down data in our APIs using MuleSoft. So our Agentforce agents now can depend reliably upon MuleSoft to lock out and prevent unauthorized, unaccessed data. So let me show you how this works here. We're going to turn this back on. A quick bit of context, when we're working as an agent or working with Agentforce, you usually think of the user you're impersonating. In this case, this agent is acting as me, Matt Burke, and this is some of the information for me, our little username set up in here. And right now, I should be able to get to this data. I'm actually defined correctly inside of Salesforce. But what we've done is used part of our definition to set up a OAuth scope. And this is part of the solution. So what we're doing here in MuleSoft and Salesforce is we're using Okta as our backend provider. So what you can see here is our Okta setup. This is a live Okta trial instance, and we have got a scope called Agentforce and another one called OpenID. And so right now we've defined that scope inside of the API part of Okta, and we've also got it all set up in a Okta app right here. So all this is very relevant because in here we have everything set up correctly, including my scope of Agentforce. But what's happening in MuleSoft, we have taken this API, our inventory API, it's inventory system API to be exact, and we've gone ahead and locked that down with the API manager. We've set a policy to be very exact, and this policy says anybody hitting this API has to provide an OAuth2 token, and also known as an OpenID Connect Access token. We're enforcing that token to come through as a valid token that is now, of course, being provided by our OAuth provider. In this case, that would be our friends at Okta. Now, this, of course, could be any provider such as Ping or whoever else you might use for your OAuth 2, but MuleSoft is saying, whoever we're using, you have to provide me a valid token in order to use this API. And to make it even more specific, we have set the OAuth 2 scope to, at the moment, just OpenID, but we need to tell Mule it's okay if we're coming in with the scope of Agentforce. So in this case, we can see we want to contain any scope, be it OpenID or Agentforce. And this could go on for quite a ways here. There's just those scopes separated by spaces. And we're going to go ahead and save that and let that get put into place so we'll be able to run our API successfully. Now, while that's getting saved, I just want to take a moment to show you how we set all this up, because it is rather scary if you were doing this without the aid of MuleSoft, Salesforce, and a piece of technology we also use called API Catalog. So what we've done using all those three tools of Salesforce, API Catalog, and MuleSoft is we've been able to use API Catalog to go out and say, MuleSoft, what APIs do you have? And the answer, of course, will be in this case just one, but normally there'll be tens, if not dozens, of APIs here that are available from MuleSoft to be consumed by your Salesforce agents. So in this case, we've already clicked on the Inventory System API. And again, that API is just the one we defined right here inside of MuleSoft. Nothing different. We've got three operations of a put, a get, and a post, which correspond to update, get, and decrease. And we've had those come back to us using API Catalog, and we get a list like this. And so this has all of our operations, and the fact that we've been able to activate those and have those available by our agent to be consumed so we can do things like this. And of course, right now, we should go ahead and test this again, and I'll complete the story here, but let's just make sure that we've gotten away from our scary story of data leaking out everywhere. And now we're going to go ahead and grab our inventory item of 1, 2, 3, 4. We're expecting a count of inventory, by the way. And there it is. It's 9,000. So everything is working as expected now because we have used MuleSoft to turn on the permissions for my user and my scope inside of MuleSoft. So again, how we did this? Well, again, we used API catalog to import that API. We were able to look at the operations, and we chose to activate all of them. So we want to do all 3 of those. And more importantly, we're able to let API catalog determine, hey, that Mule API, in this case, an inventory system API or inventory SAPI, is using OAuth2. And we took the time to define this external credential earlier to let our friends at Salesforce know that MuleSoft exists and has certain credentials. And then API Catalog could leverage those, and it did the hard work of creating a permission set for us and a name credential. And all these are a little dicey, but quite doable for admins. But API Catalog makes it a lot easier to do, and it does it in way less time, far faster. So just to the point about the permission sets, this is where you define which users can act on behalf of the agent. In this case, it's just one, it's me. You could add any more other users you want or subtract. So you can just pick the ones you want and add them in there. But in this case, just me is fine. And then it, being API Catalog, understands everything that's in MuleSoft as far as that API and the security. And API Catalog took the time to, a very quick time for that matter, to create us name credentials that say this is where the inventory API lives. And it's going to use these credentials right here. And it's going to go ahead and when we look at those credentials, those just point us to the scope of Agentforce. And this is how we're able to link our Agentforce right here against using Agentforce in the definition of our API right in here. So right here we just add Agentforce and everything, of course, began to work as we designed it to. So back in Salesforce, just to complete the loop, we were able to, of course, define our external identity authentication, which you know is OAuth, and that is reaching out using, we just happen to relist our name credentials right there. And then finally, we did have to give it a little bit of setup to say this is our external IDP provider. In this case, that points us to Okta, which we've defined. And again, that just corresponds back to our Okta server running right here. So now we've got everything we need to do our OAuth dance, as they call it, similar to the lines of the Monster Mash, if we want to go there. And so now when we go back to Agentforce Builder, we're able to have everything we need in play, all set up thanks to the help of API Catalog and the Salesforce Agentforce tooling. So now when we define a new agent, we can just import our brand new topic and its actions thanks to API Catalog. So basically everything I needed to know about inventory, what I could do with that is really defined here in MuleSoft. We actually say that we can do these things like update, get, and decrease. All this English language is understood by the agent itself. It's part of the vocabulary it looks at. So you can see our instructions were here to, like, if you want to decrease or retrieve, get details of inventory. This is the language that came out of our MuleSoft API. It's all available here, so the Atlas reasoning engine can go through and do its job. And next thing you know, we're able to ask it questions and say, like in this case, get me the inventory level. We could say now something like decrease the inventory level by, say, 300. That's just a random number. And of course, the reasoning engine will go ahead and make sure it has all the details it needs. And now it's been decreased, and it gives us the response of 8,700, which is, of course, 300 less than 9,000. And we're ready to roll and keep on using this API that we defined in MuleSoft to consume it quite handily inside of Salesforce. And again, API Catalog was able to wire all of the securities together. So we're able to make this a very pleasant experience for our agent builders, and of course, more importantly, our end users, so they're able to do whatever jobs they're needing to do, in this case, working with inventory levels. And this, of course, again, is all about the right user, making sure that the right user that's acting as the agent has the right permissions, and those, of course, are governed and regulated thanks to MuleSoft and its API management. So thank you so much for watching this. I hope it explained it, made it a bit more understandable for you, and we look forward to seeing you next time. And again, happy Halloween.